In a Violent Nature is a slasher written and directed by Chris Nash. The plot follows a mute killer who is accidentally resurrected from his grave in the Ontario wilderness by a group of teenagers, whom he then begins stalking and murdering. This review will be spoiler-free. This film frustrated me a bit. I enjoyed it well enough, but I wasn't always sure what it was going for. It is clearly inspired by the Friday the 13th series, but the interesting thing about it is that rather than hiding the killer in the shadows and only showing them when they kill people, it follows the perspective of the killer. It at times feels like a video game, not in a bad way, but because we spend a lot of the film with the camera following the killer from behind as he slowly walks through the wilderness looking for prey. We are never anywhere that the killer is not. If we are watching a bunch of people sitting around a campfire, so is the killer. This is an interesting concept because it turns the slasher formula on its head and avoids my big problem with slashers in general. My big problem is that in most slashers, the group of people set up to be killed are seldom developed. They are stupid paper-thin stereotypes. We don't care about them. Yet we spend most of the film with them. This film avoids having to develop them. They aren't on screen as our protagonists, and we are better for it. Because with their limited screen time, they get just about as much development as they would in a regular slasher that follows their perspective anyway. We start to follow the perspective of human characters in Act 3, so it sort of breaks that perspective promise that it held for the whole film. Unfortunately, the film is not married to this whole concept as it ditches following the killer during Act 3. You could argue that it has set up tension through showing that even when we're not looking at the killer, we know he's there, so it makes us feel like when we finally ditch his perspective that he really truly is there, but once you really start to think about it, he's not. You could say that this is neither here nor there and that it's not truly wonky, but I thought it would be more interesting to stick to that killer perspective all the way through because it would just be a stronger statement and it would really drive home that concept. It would leave us wondering more, and the point of the film would be more defined. It just seems strange to plant your feet in that way for such long drawn-out sequences and then to ditch the concept at the end. When I say that I wasn't sure what the film was going for, I mean in its tone. Did it want to be a serious and visceral horror or a schlocky throwback? There is no non-diegetic music, we just hear the killer's footsteps and nature sounds. This is an oddly calming, almost ASMR-like experience that creates a realistic feel, and it is juxtaposed with the violent scenes in a stark way. Because we spend most of the film in this situation, you get used to the realistic nature of it, but then when the killer eventually finds people to kill, the kills are often goofy. The practical effects look cheap and fake, and some of the acting can't be taken seriously. The amount of characters that scream "no" but stand or sit waiting to be hacked to pieces is utterly ridiculous. That aspect actually disappointed me. The characters hardly ever actually try to get away. It is true that the kills are over the top, but towards the midway point of the film there is one that happens on the edge of a mountain, which was cringe-inducing in the best way possible. For horror fans, this is one of the most inventive kills that we've seen in a while. My entire cinema was audibly wincing and exclaiming at how gruesome the kill was, and it just keeps going and going and going. If you hear anyone talking about this film and they refer to a scene in this as that scene or that kill, then that's the one that I'm talking about. Everyone who has seen it will instantly know what one means when they say that scene. If not for anything else, the innovation in that scene alone makes the film worthwhile for horror fans. I was hoping the film would build upon that by having increasingly more elaborate kills later on that were interesting conceptually, but it really just peaks there. If you like popcorn slashers, you may find this a bit boring outside of a few imaginative kills. If you're a horror film fanatic, you may appreciate the experiment that is this film. It doesn't always work due to its conflicting visceral and comedic tones, but I can't tell if the comedic elements are intentional. If they were, why go to such lengths to immerse your audience in a world that feels real if you aren't going to take it seriously? I appreciate the attempt to do something fresh. It doesn't really work, but it was certainly a cool and interesting film overall. It has lush cinematography and great sound design, but outside of one amazing kill sequence, I wouldn't rush to watch this one.